Little and Broken, but Still Good, by Wicked Writer Oneyu 3. Chapter 11. Hizashi slumped into his chair at work. Afternoon picked up, had just concluded, so he was finally alone in his classroom. It had been annoyingly 2 weeks since the incident at Shota's, and it seemed he couldn't get caught up on anything. Every time he tried to focus his mind, he would recall memories from that night. How wonderful Shouta felt entangled with him. How his stubble scratched pleasantly against his own jaw. It was getting hard to keep his attention on the present rather than living permanently in the past. The text message conversations were nearly non-stop with Shouta. For someone who claimed to not like texting, Shouta was always the first to send one. Every day he would get a good morning text, which thrilled him to no end. He would get random pictures of cats that Shouta was looking to adopt. Hisashi would find a way to check in with him, make sure that both he and Eri were okay after what happened. And Itoshi too. Itoshi had been sending messages to Shouta every day to let him know he was okay. Shota's mood always changed once he got that message. He would go from being tense back to his usual self. It was probably hard for him to not know if Itoshi was safe. Apparently, he stayed for a few days at his case carrier's house before being sent to another foster family. At this point, he was due to return home in a couple of days. Hisashi thought it was bullshit that his dad didn't get in more trouble than he actually did. Just some court-mandated therapy sessions and some community service in exchange for not pressing charges against Shouta. In the eyes of the law, Shouta was the one who started it by assaulting him. But he deserved it. Late at night, after Eri was put to bed, Shouta would give Hisashi a call, and they would catch up with each other about their respective days. Hisashi got to learn all about some of the kids that Shouta had taken in over the years, some who just needed a place for a while, a few who he was able to help become more confident in advocating for their own needs by the time they left, and even one girl who he helped file her emancipation papers so she could leave the system. He learned that Shouta did the same thing at her age. Once he was tired of the constant change between houses, he filled the necessary paperwork to be on his own starting at the age 16. That piece of information impressed Hisashi to no end. At that age, Hisashi was only concerned about school and finding someone to date. There would be no way he would have survived on his own. His phone buzzed on his desk, and he scrambled to pick it up. There was a message from Shouta. Shouta, sounds like Eri had a great day at school. Hisashi smiled at the message before typing out his own reply. Hisashi, she did great as the line leader today, but that power kinda went to her head. Packing his bag quickly, he decided that any prep work that needed to be done could wait until the morning. Something that he often decides at the end of the school day and complains about the next morning. About halfway home, he receives another message. Shouta. She can be very determined when she wants. Actually, I have noticed that she's become more confident in herself this year. I think your class has helped her more than I could alone. Hisashi had to fight the urge to brush off the comment. But before he had a chance to respond, Shouta sent another message. Shouta. I've got to make dinner, but I can still call you later tonight. Hisashi. Of course. The rest of the commute was a little boring without Shouta to talk to, but Hisashi didn't mind. He knew that being a parent came first, so instead, he scrolled mindlessly through some social media until he stopped. Every once in a while, he would come across a funny cat video or picture and would send them to Shouta, knowing he wouldn't get the chance to see them for a while. Shouta. It's been 2 hours and I haven't heard from him. I'm getting worried. Hisashi stared at his phone, which lit up on his desk when the message came in. Luckily, it's always kept on silent during work hours, just in case. It was nap time, and his class had just finished settling down. Apparently, there was a cat that wandered through the playground during recess, and they were all abuzz about the surprise visitor. It took them a long while to get them all to fall asleep. Normally, he didn't like texting during class time, but Shota's message seemed kind of urgent. Hisashi. Who? What's going on? The reply was instant. Shouta. Hitoshi. He usually texts me before school, but he didn't today. I sent a message 2 hours ago and he hasn't responded. Hizashi. I'm sure he's fine. Maybe call the school to see if he's in class? Shouta. Wouldn't that be crossing a boundary? I don't know if I'm on his emergency contact anymore. Hizashi. They may not release any info to you then, but do you want me to call? I can say I'm his sister's teacher and she was asking for him? Well, it wasn't the best plan. It wasn't terrible either. He could give the school a call and say that Eri wanted to make sure he was okay. For what reason exactly, Hizashi wasn't sure. Shouta. Wouldn't they have information about siblings on file? Hizashi. Yeah, they would. Do you have any of his friends' numbers? For a moment, there wasn't a reply. With how fast Shouta had been texting, he was certain the phone was in his hand, but the second ticks away until a minute bled into 5. Hizashi was about to send a follow-up message when the screen lit up. Shouta. I forgot he gave me Midoriya's just in case. He said Itoshi is in class. His phone didn't charge last night, and is dead. Hizashi. See? I knew he'd be okay. Shouta. Thank you. I don't know what I'd do without you. Hizashi felt himself smiling into his phone. Not only was he glad that Itoshi was unharmed, but Shouta was able to calm down a little as well. The conversation ended there, since it was time to wake the kids for snack time. When Shouta came to pick up Eri, he thanked him again. Shouta looked more worn down than normal. There was always a part of him that looked tired, but Hizashi just chalked that up to being a single parent. But he looked like he was on the verge of collapsing. Obviously, he must have been worried about Hitoshi for more than just today. Honestly, it looked like he hadn't slept properly in at least a week. Unfortunately, they didn't get a chance to talk too much, but Hizashi sent a text to Nomuri about his concerns. She said she would talk to Emi about it, and see what they could do to help. Once Hizashi got home from work, he received a message saying that Emi volunteered to babysit Eri for the entire weekend, so Shouta could get some rest. Nomuri. If I get sick from this kid, I'm gonna murder you. Hizashi. Thanks, Nem. You'll have fun. Eri is such a sweet girl. Send my love to M too. Hizashi crawled into bed. It was later than normal, and Shouta hadn't called yet. Not that he had to, obviously. They didn't agree on talking to each other every night. It had just become a habit. He hoped that everything was okay. Perhaps he just got caught up with something else. Maybe Hizashi should send him a text to check in? Although, would that be a little clingy? Maybe he should wait a little longer before deciding. Instead, he scrolled mindlessly through some videos online on his phone. He knew that was bad for him. He had lectured his students about limiting screen time, but he hardly ever listens to his own advice. After a few minutes, he could feel himself getting sleepy and was about to send a text to Shouta wishing him good night when he received an incoming text. Shouta. Are you still available to talk? Hizashi smiled and responded with a yes. After all, it was Friday night, and he already shut off his alarm clock for tomorrow. His phone started ringing. The image of a grumpy cat filled his phone, although he would never tell Sho that was what he saved as his picture. This isn't too late for you? Hizashi asked in lieu of a greeting. Sorry, Eri was being particularly stubborn with bath time today, and it took forever to get her to bed. There was a rustling on the other end. He was probably crawling onto bed himself. Any advice on how to get kids to do things they don't want to do? You must be an expert on it. Bath time is out of my expertise, but I do use a lot of positive reinforcement. How so? Well, when I have to do something like principal coming in to observe me, I usually tell them that we could play a game after lunch if they do well when he's in the room. It tends to work well. You mean you bribe them? Shota's tone was teasing. If it works, it works. Hizashi shrugged, even though he knew he couldn't see through the phone. The conversation flowed easily. Honestly, Hizashi felt more comfortable talking to Shouta than he ever did with anyone he dated. Usually the beginning of any relationship was filled with awkward pauses, where he was never certain if he should fill the spaces. A few people told him in the past how talkative he could be, so he was wary around anyone new. With Shouta, on the other hand, the silence never felt stilted. Instead, it was just a natural pause in the conversation. Neither took that silence as an invitation to end. Usually, it wasn't until one of them yawned a few too many times before they would finally hang up. Do you have any exciting plans for the weekend? Hizashi asked. Eri wants to bake cookies, but other than that, we're just relaxing at home. You can bake? Please tell me you have a cute little apron you wear. He was half joking, but the silence from the other end was all the information he needed. You do, don't you? I may have gotten a matching set with Eri. He murmured into the phone, probably hoping that Hizashi wouldn't hear him. That is adorable. I need a picture of that. He could feel his smile grow on his face. Just the image of him and Eri baking together in matching aprons was enough to make his heart skip. Hold on. There was a shuffle on the other end before Hisashi's phone buzzed right next to his ear. He opened the message that Shouta just sent to see an image of him and Eri in those matching aprons. They were pink with frills along the top and bottom, with a message across the chest that read, "Made from scratch," with a picture of a cat on it. Shouta had Eri propped on his hip as she was eating a cookie, rather than looking at the camera for a picture. They were both covered in flour. The smile Shouta wore was breathtaking. Hizashi had learned quickly how reserved he could be. Every once in a while, he would see a genuine smile, but most of the time, it was something held back, a small imprint that could be easily overlooked if he wasn't paying attention. But in this picture, it was obvious how absolutely smitten with his daughter he was. That was before the school year started. Shota's voice snapped him out of his analyzing every aspect of the photo. We haven't had a chance to bake anything since then. That sounds like a wonderful weekend. You would have to join us the next time we have a baking day. It probably won't be until after the school year anyways. I'd love to, but don't rely on me for cooking. I somehow managed to burn everything. So you'll be on whisk duty. Shouta chuckled. Do you have any plans for this weekend? Nemuri's gonna come over and have a movie marathon? Hizashi was looking forward to spending time with her. Not that he didn't enjoy Hemi tagging along. She was a wonderful person. But they haven't been able to hang out in ages. It was going to be a fun weekend. Usually put on whichever terrible movie they found and make up drinking games. He was already planning on a greasy breakfast the next morning to help them recover from hangovers. Sounds like fun. They continued to talk for a bit longer. It wasn't until Shouta let out a particularly loud yawn that I realized it was well past midnight. They said their goodbyes, although neither really wanted to hang up. I want what they have. I want what they have. I once had what they had, where awkward silences weren't awkward and it was just endearing and we could just be in a phone call for hours and talk late into the night. And even though there was, not awkward moments, but quiet moments between the conversations, it never felt awkward. It felt natural. It felt good. It felt amazing. Sometimes we would be on calls for 8 hours to 9 hours at a time. And if you're wondering what happened to that person, I got dumped. That dynamic that we used to have where it was like we could talk for hours at a time slowly became to the point where 8 hours became only 7, 7 became 5, 5 became 2, and 2 became where we could barely hold up a conversation for more than 30 minutes on a phone call. And our conversation texts would go from either one of us starting a conversation, whoever woke up first was the one who texted first that day. For the most part, it was either me or them. It changed on a regular basis who messaged first, right? It changed on a regular basis who would text randomly in the middle of the day. Like, we would text from morning to night. We would talk all day, even throughout school. Even though we went to the same fucking school, it would go on from the beginning of the day when one of us woke up to the end of the day when the first person goes to sleep. Literally. literally. It was constant talking, constant calls, constant communication, right? Constantly. And we would still make hangout plans to hang out outside of just texting or school. And it was wonderful. It was amazing. It reminded me of what Hizashi and Shouta have in this fanfiction, except slowly that went from small, texting every day to I was the one who would text them first in the morning, even though they would wake up before me. I became the one who had to keep up conversations. I had to be the one who, if I did not text them, they wouldn't text me at all. I even tried one day where I didn't text them at all that whole day, and we didn't talk at all that whole day. That whole day. I even went as far as to not talk to them during lunch and during breaks. And you know what happened? We didn't talk that day. We didn't. At all. We have a class together. We had a class together. And during that class, we normally always sit next to each other. I did choose to sit next to them because it would be weird if I chose not to sit next to them, but I didn't talk to them. I didn't initiate a conversation, and we didn't talk all day. It was until the next day that I sent a good morning, and they didn't even acknowledge it. And slowly I realized, if I want this friendship to last, I have to put all the effort. And so I put all the effort, and we're no longer friends anymore, so yeah. So I want what they have, but I don't want it to end like my other one ended, like I had what they had, but I don't want it to end that way. Also, Hitoshi. Let's talk about Hitoshi for a second. I went a little sideways. Hitoshi. I am concerned for Hitoshi returning back. I'm concerned. I really am. I'm scared. You're scared. I'm scared. We're all scared. We're all scared here. It's all scary moment for everybody here, because what the fuck is gonna happen? I know I said sacrifices need to be made, but fuck you, Past Echo. No, we don't need those sacrifices. Why can't it just be happy? Why can't it just be Hitoshi being like, you know what, Court? I want to go with Shouta. And boom, yay, everybody's happy. That's not going to happen, God. Oh, God. As always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.